So if we look at our continuum, you have fast twitch fibers on your left and slow twitch on the right. I've chosen the marathon pace right here in the middle, but this can be any race distance. This is just for convenience, okay? So let's say you're gonna run a marathon and your goal pace is 7 minutes per mile. Okay, so to run 5 miles at marathon pace looks like that. To run a half marathon looks like that. And to run the whole thing is at the top of this chart. So that's what we're dealing with here. Now, in order to get these muscle fibers strong enough to run the whole distance like that, you would think that you would want to be able, let's say you can run 3 to 5 miles at marathon pace right now, that the logical thing to do would be to train until you can run 10 and then maybe 16 miles at marathon pace, all the way up to where you can run the whole distance. Now, in theory, that makes sense, but it's a flawed concept because you can only train a specific aspect of your fitness for about 6 weeks before it plateaus, and then you need to do something different to have a new gain in fitness. Now, the problem is that your race pace is very specific, and so you can only train it for about 6 weeks specifically. Now, during those 6 weeks, how much gain in fitness are you going to have? Maybe you'll go from here to maybe here, which would be pretty good, but it's not going to get you to your PR race distance, right? Now, what if you were already incredibly fit leading into it? So those 6 weeks, instead of spent down here, could be spent up here, and you have a dramatic increase in your fitness because your training is very specific and very difficult. Well, that sounds nice, Andrew, right? But it's really hard to go out and do a 22 or 23 mile run at marathon pace. If I could do that, geez, I wouldn't need to train at all. Yes, that's true. Very difficult. So what can you do to support it? Let's say you had a 22 or 23 mile training run at marathon pace. Well, that's kind of difficult, but imagine that leading up to that, you could also complete a 15 mile run 30 seconds faster at a 30 seconds faster pace. And you could also do a 25 or even 30 mile run at a minute and a half slower than marathon pace. So you have a lot of speed endurance and you have a lot of long, easy endurance. Now, if you could complete those kinds of training, and I would call that support training, if you already had that under your belt, imagine instead of only being able to run 15 miles in training at marathon pace, now because you're so fit already, you can take this and shift it up this way and you can run much more specific workouts. But here's the catch, is that these workouts are extraordinarily difficult. And if you can actually do them, you're probably in shape to almost run your personal best in some distances. You are a beast already. So what do you need to do to get in shape for this? And that would be what I would call base training. So when you think of base training, a lot of people will conceptualize it as running slow mileage and more and more and more of it. Ideally running a lot of slow, easy miles. Now, that's a good idea, but you're omitting the other end of this spectrum over here. And so true base training actually capitalizes on training the two extremes that are furthest away from your race distance. So that means also doing a lot of very fast, very short speed work. Now, over time, your speed work gets slower and longer, so it looks like that. And your long runs get a little bit faster and a little bit longer. They're more taxing, so it looks kind of like that. Now, when you can complete a phase like this, you're set up to be able to complete a phase like this. And when you can complete a phase like that, well then, we knock both of them out and we focus for 6 weeks, very specifically, right at your race pace. And we do workouts that are incredibly specific to your race and will have a dramatic gain in your performance. Now, that being said, I'm going to share one other secret with you here, and that is you don't even need to have these fibers be that strong up there. You only need them to be about this strong. And here's the reason why. As you fatigue, as these muscle fibers fatigue in the race, what you're going to do is start to recruit the sum of the fibers that are adjacent to it. So when your marathon pace fibers start to get tired, you're just going to recruit a little bit of the faster twitch and a little bit of the slower twitch. And the two of them working together will produce the same pace, and you're able to maintain that pace longer. Now that's amazing, right? And this process will continue on and on and on until all of your fast twitch fibers are fatigued It will go both ways. But when all of these are fatigued here, then the only way you can continue running is by slowing down. And so the focus of our training is not only to make your specific fibers as strong as possible, but also to give you the support surrounding it so that you can not only complete an incredibly difficult workout during the later phases of your training, but also during your race, you have an incredible base of fitness to tap into that will basically double your ability to maintain race pace for longer. This is how the best runners in the world over the last about 50 years or so, maybe even going on 70 years now, have trained.